Oh yeah, oh yeah, let God arise. Oh yeah, oh yeah, let God arise. Let his enemies scatter. Let them flee from before him. The smoke is driven away. So drive them away. Oh, oh, yeah. Let God arise. Arise, oh Lord. Let God arise. Let God arise. Rise, let rise. Oh yeah. Let God arise. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens, by his name Yahweh. Let's rejoice before him. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. God arise. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let God arise. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let God arise. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let God arise. Oh, yeah. Oh, holy, holy is the God of Israel. Elders bow and worship as the angel voices swell. Fragrant clouds of incense swirl around your throne of grace. Lord, we bow and worship at the brilliance of your face, and we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lord. Holy, holy, holy the song that heaven sings. All creation praise him. Hallelujah, Elohim. Come to reign forever, King of kings and Lord of lords. Lift your head, O Zion, open wide you ancient doors, and cry, holy, 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 holy is the Lord. Receive our praise, holy, holy, holy. You're the Son of God, and you are awesome, God of power, Lord of glory. power, glory, fill this place. Awesome power, glory, come and fill this place. You are awesome. Come, power,
Shalom and welcome everybody to the midweek manna service. We are so glad that you showed up, that everyone is here. We're glad to have you, each and every one. May Yahweh bless you all. So we're going to go over the service speaker for tonight is Brother Sean. The program facilitator, I guess that would be me. And then we have Brother Gregory Smith that got in the way, and Brother Steve. So I'm just coming to tell you that welcome, and I do have a verse to open and a prayer. The Spirit of Yahweh is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and the opening of the prison that are bound. And I have one more with the CEV, that is the King James. The CEV says, the Ruach of Yahweh has taken control of me. Yahweh has chosen and sent me to tell the oppressed the good news, to heal the brokenhearted, and to announce freedom from prison, from the captives. And I believe that's not just me. I believe that is to all of us who are called, to all those who accept and follow what Yahweh's Ruach leads us to do. With all that being said, Father Yahweh, we ask for your Ruach to be upon us this night. You touch and anoint each and every one here, whether they're speaking or listening, that Father, heal our prayers, heal our bodies, touch our bodies, and let each and every one, including myself, get something out of this. This way we came here, Father, just like your word says, all these many things are set before us and others, as long as we just listen to you and do what you say. So we look for your Ruach tonight, Father. We listen to hear your precious word. Shalom.
At this time, we are going to have a singing special, compliments of Shiri from the Congregation of Elohim in Brooklyn, New York. And we want to give a special thank you to the Congregation of Elohim for providing us with this music, and for thank you to Shiri as well.
How lovely are thy dwellings, O eternal dawn of woes. My soul is longing, fainting for thee, O living power. Yea, the bird has found its home, built a nest to lay her young. Oh, that I may find thine altars, my Lord, my King, well. How lovely are thy dwellings, O eternal dawn of woes. For those who dwell in thy house shall sing thy praise. Blessed and happy is the man who has found his strength in thee. He is stronger day by day, and shall in Zion dwell. How lovely are thy dwellings, O eternal dawn of hosts. Give ear unto my prayer, O well of Israel. For a day with thee is better than 1,000 other days. Oh, that I may find thine altars, my Lord, my King, my end.
At this time, I would like to introduce to you again Suzanne Cormus, who is the operator of Faith Works Naturopathy Clinic. And she will be speaking tonight for roughly 10 minutes. And she has some things she would like to share with you tonight. So do we have Suzanne?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, take it away.
Well, thank you for inviting us again. And so Joseph's on too, I'm sure. And so then this is just a blessing to have my husband on board and a team player for all that Yah's got planned for us. And so I wanted to go over today simple steps to better health because I love home remedies. And everybody that comes to see me, I give them the same basic steps. Your skin's your largest organ. And so you'll want to make sure that once a week you're soaking in a nice hot bath. That 2 cups of Epsom salts and 1 cup of cider vinegar. I hand this out as a handout to anybody for the first time coming to see me. So then my son's always called this a pickle bath when he was little, but we add an essential oil, whether you wanted to do lavender or maybe cypress or a bergamot, whatever your favorite flavors. You don't want to do the hot and spicy peppermint into your bath water necessarily because you Bengay hot kind of feeling. But your long bath, at least good 20 minutes to soak that skin, and your skin is your largest organ. We're skin from the inside out because there's the inside of your mouth has skin, your esophagus is a skin, your thickest skin of your body is actually your stomach. And it's the hydrochloric acid's there to do its job and to keep your proteins all digested appropriately. So it's important to chew all your food completely. And that's the third one down on my list of important things to eat. And is that's eating without drinking. So if you drink while you're eating, it dilutes that hydrochloric acid in your stomach. And if your stomach acids are strong, it will be able to digest your proteins better. Animal proteins are only digested in the stomach, are only broke down in the stomach, and it's digested then in the small intestine. So there's 3 sections to your small intestine, and it's very important that your heavy meat proteins specifically are broken down well in your stomach acids before they enter that small intestinal tract. Belly breathing at bedtime is one of my favorites. I believe it's the breath of life through Yeshua that gives us our health and our strength through Christ. That's amazing what Yahweh does with our breath. He knows our every breath, and he knows he's made us and built us. And so you breathe in the good and you let go of the bad. And you believe in the love of every light that penetrates our bodies. And so belly breathing at bedtime flattens your tummy, strengthens your colon. You'll sleep better and you'll snore less. You will get lightheaded and dizzy from power breathing, but you really should be ready to fall asleep. That's part of my prayer and meditation every night is power breathing at bedtime. And then to wake up in the morning and have that amazing digestive system. And I think I've mentioned it before with how when you wake up in the morning, and we all have bad breath when we wake up because our esophagus all the way to our large intestine are wide open. The caloric valves in your stomach are open as well as the ileocecal valve from your small intestine to your large intestine. So you're tasting your colon when you wake up in the morning. So to flush that system, everybody give me a fist, and that's the size of your stomach. So the stomach is a very important part of our digestive tract, as well as your large intestine, your small intestine. The crazy part of all of this is that your small intestine is actually bigger than your large intestine. And isn't that an oxymoron? He's got a perfect design for all of it. So when you drink as much warm water as you can first thing in the morning, a man's stomach holds approximately 22 ounces, and that's the size of your fist. Most men's fists are bigger than a woman's fist, and so a woman can't drink as much water as a man does in the morning. But to drink as much warm water as you can, flushing it out of the small intestine and putting it into your large intestine, it's easy to have a nice, healthy, long bowel movement every morning. From the bend in your elbow to the tips of your fingers is how long your bowel movement should be. And if you can do that every morning, you'll feel great and have a great way to open up and keep on getting stronger. I'm wanting my husband to see if he had anything else to add to all of that great information. What do you think, Joseph? Is he available?
Maybe a little. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. The signal wasn't very strong when I first tried getting on. Yeah. The one thing that I did think about, Suzanne, and that is, you did touch on the warm water in the morning, and I also wanted to see if you would talk about good fats, like your olive oil, coconut oil, compared to your seed oils. Yeah, the seed oils don't seem to be that good for us. That's the only thing I would probably add in there.
I do agree with Joseph. It's your coconut oil is your best oil to cook with. I like to do oil pulling even with those coconut oil solutions. Olive oil is actually goes rancid if you cook with it. So it's plastic wrapped to the digestive tract, a lot like what hydrogenized oils are. So Crisco oils and your Crisco oil and margarines is what we want to stay away from. That hydrogenized oils is to completely avoid, and that's from most of your fast food restaurants. And so if you eat out, you're probably eating plastic wrapped the digestive tract. So I do cook with grapeseed oil though, Joseph. So I was concerned about what you were talking about is seed oils being bad for us, but it's the olive oil you wouldn't want to cook with. Suggestions of what you're thinking in that line of how do you, in chewing your food, there you go. Chew your food 20 times before you swallow it is ideal, and not drinking while you're eating. Exactly. I love that comment. Is your mastication in your mouth is the first line of your digestive system. So chewing and making all of the amylase and the saliva glands work together to make more hydrochloric acid for that digestive tract. So what were you thinking, Joseph? Sometimes Joseph was cutting in and out, so I hope everyone can hear him completely.
You're right. There is some good things to be said about the grapeseed oil. I agree about that. I probably only have one other thought, and that is of the various nuts and what your thoughts are about peanuts. That might be something new for others to hear.
Oh, I agree, because peanuts is not a tree nut. There's more funguses. I see more people in the colon hydrotherapy that I do here for colonics. Emergency was for today. A man had just came back from the emergency room because of eating peanuts, and it had mucus covered, blocked his colon, and the x-ray showed that he only had a hard stool in his gut, and that's what he had to get rid of. And when we added the water, it was one peanut at a time that finally all came out. It's like a because they didn't break down, and he goes, he was binging on peanuts for weeks and wondered why he had such a gut ache. And so he went to the emergency room with it, and they suggested in our local hospital for him to come see me. So I was wowed today that it all came together. But it's amazing that peanuts are so toxic to the system. He had the allergic reaction to it. He was swelling up because of the amount of peanuts. And so you put one marble at a time into a pop bottle and you turn it upside down. I'm talking a glass pop bottle, and you turn it upside down. And if you put a dozen marbles in there, you turn it upside down, maybe 2 or 3 might fall out, but the rest of them are bottlenecked in. And putting the water back through his digestive tract so he could push one marble out at a time. And it was amazing how toxic that harmed the whole body. So there was a major issue with peanuts today. I was just, wow. But God's got a plan, and I'm so glad that I can help others and teach them to know that it's not me and it's not the water, but it was through the love of Yah that they know that they are loved and comforted through all of this. It's amazing how God just keeps on growing our faith. And I had to share salvation prayers with those folks today because they were quite lost in all of that they were doing. So the truth and the light will continue to shine. So I praise him and thank him.
Well, that's such a blessing, Suzanne. You know what? I never heard that about peanuts, and I guess I better stop my peanut eating and switch to almonds or what about walnuts? I guess would be okay then.
The tree nut is a blessing, and I soak all my almonds, and I tend to put them into a grape juice or a sweet juice, and it makes them a candied almond then. But the almonds are really hard to digest and hard to break down. So if you soak them. Pistachios was another question. Pistachios is the only nut that I will eat a few of before heading to bed because it's a good protein and it's not raw, soaked, and organic is all in a blessing. So that's exactly right as I watch and read the comments coming through. So I love to soak my nuts. Peanuts are just the major no-no in most of them. So, yeah, pecans, but the pistachios are one of those things.
I'm sorry, we do have a hand up. Vicki, did you have a question for Suzanne?
I do. Did you say that the man that you saw today, that the peanuts were toxic to him or toxic to all of us?
Well, they were definitely toxic to him today. Everybody's different. I had a young lady a year ago, and she was 16 and she was a vegetarian, and all she ate was peanut butter on everything. And the peanut butter was what was toxic. She was actually had allergic reaction to it and never recognized it until it started to come out through her skin. And she'd always been constipated, but didn't know it was because of the peanut butter. And soon as she stopped doing the peanut butter, her digestive system woke up and things started to come together. It was amazing. Everybody's different, so not everybody's allergic to peanuts, but if you eat too much of anything, you can get allergic to it. So I'm the perfect example for overeating garlic. I once was told how important garlic was. So I ate a lot of raw garlic just to think that I was keeping my immune system strong. I would, at bedtime, I would slice 1 clove of garlic in several pieces and swallow it like a pill. And you don't really taste it as you swallow it. And I didn't wake up with a bad breath of garlic, but my skin started to smell like garlic. And so doing that too many months in a row, I actually had developed an allergy to garlic. So I had to cut back on the garlic and only use it occasionally and not overusing it. So I learned from my own mistakes because I thought garlic was always going to be good for me. But everybody's different. You got to take everything with what God has planned for us and pull it all together in different directions. So
That's
kind of fun.
fantastic. Thank you for that, Suzanne. We have time for one more question. Do we have one more question for Suzanne from the audience?
Thank you, Vicki. You're awesome. Well, cashews, you're right about cashews. The question that was asked there about cashews need to be raw, not roasted, toasted, or salted for in order to be medicinal and good for us. But if you do cashews, and the issue with cashews, he liked his raw cashews, but when he left them in the sun in his car, they actually need to stay refrigerated and kept cool if you have raw cashews. And he left them in his truck way too long and chose to eat them. And he had allergic reaction to cashews because of that. And he really, it was another wow. But some people are surprisingly quickly sick from cashews as well. So somebody thought that maybe it was a mild depression because of cashews. Because I've always heard that the raw nuts, if you can get them unroasted and untoasted and unsalted, your raw nuts like pecans and walnuts are actually good for depression, but don't eat them too close to bedtime because it will keep your mind awake. And now you can't sleep at night. So you don't want to eat your raw tree nuts too close to bedtime.
That's all very good advice. Well, we want to thank you again, Suzanne, for coming and sharing your wealth of knowledge, and also Joe. We are very much grateful because we know that these kinds of this information is going to be critical, especially in the coming days. It seems like we can't rely on doctors. It seems like, well, of course, some people don't rely at all, but to say those of us like myself who have health issues, I've become, especially after the so-called pandemic, I've become incredibly skeptical. You know, they were pushing the shot, and it seems like they're really not interested in my health as I thought they might be. But this kind of health stuff, especially if we don't have access to them in the coming days, then we may need your kind of expertise. So thank you again for that. And so at this time, we are going to be moving on to our next section here. And so right now, I would like to introduce to you a man who I've known for a while, a good brother by the name of Giacomo Knox. And he's going to be giving our Watchman report. And I'm going to put his page up here for all of you. Do we have you there, Giacomo? There he is.
Aha, how about that? The button that says unmute, you're supposed to click on that. Go figure. Must be getting a little late. Shalom all. Am I loud and clear?
Oh yeah, we can hear you great. Go ahead, brother. What do you have to share for us today?
All right, well, to back up my sister Suzanne up there, I'm no one's naturopath, but I've been thinking about it for a long time, perhaps getting a master's degree and going back to school for that discipline. Because I'm seeing a lot of folks, especially within the walk, that believe we can eat anything out of a package, and then we go running off to Dr. Jesus and we become ill. We've got a brother in our congregation right now who has stage 4 lung cancer, and he's accepted. He said, listen, I'm going to refuse treatment this time. He had a throat cancer previously, and it took a horrible toll on his body, as 20, 30 years ago or so. He said, this time, you know what? I'm not going to take treatment this time. And I don't blame him. I watched my favorite uncle, Daniel Whitner, pass away of pancreatic cancer. And all they succeeded in doing was bankrupting him with the therapies, and he died anyway. I said, what was the point of that? But by all means, what did someone tell me a long time ago? And now as a vegan, not a perfect vegan, but a pretty decent vegan, I put it into practice. Your meals should begin and end, or your meal shopping should begin and end at the produce aisle. The minute you step outside even the frozen foods into the packaged areas, you're opening yourself up to disease. Now, I was reading an article here about the California State Assembly, and I'll read it part way. You can probably read it for yourself as well. And the source is the HD Post. California did something right, the state that where I lived for over 20 years of my life before I came to my senses, have finally banned these 5 toxic food chemicals. Now, mind you, Europe is, 20, 30 decades ahead of us when it comes to this. They know that these certain food additives are incredibly toxic. And yet, you know, several of my favorite beverages, no more, praise Yahweh, are on this list of things that are absolutely toxic. Brominated vegetable oil, what's it doing in sodas? Mountain Dew, Gatorade, Fanta, yeah, not gonna poison me, buddy, not gonna happen. And to see the number one attribute of this garbage in our drinks, neurological disorders. Now, I'm no one's medical person as well, but you start messing around with the central nervous system, it tends not to come back. So by all means, if you're slapping a Mountain Dew every day, or after the work I get a Gatorade on 3 or 4 times, you are poisoning yourself. And now we know the truth, and California knows the truth. Now it's going down to potassium bromate. I've heard this before as well about Wonder Bread. I've eaten Wonder Bread since I was 12. And I think my mother even knew about that back in the 70s after all. Like, this is not healthy. It looks like it's glue. I drive Uber for a living. I picked up a man from India who's himself is a vegetarian. He said that he had a package of hamburger rolls. He's gonna have some vegan hamburger patties with it. And he left it behind in the laundry room by mistake. He said, went to go clean his laundry room 6 months later. He found the package of hamburger rolls. They were still soft, as if they had been freshly baked. Ought to give you a clue. Anything in a package is probably going to kill you at some point. But I'm kind of glad I saw this as well, because Chex Mix is on that list of potassium bromate. Who has not gone to a get-together and taken a handful of Chex Mix, a hot Chex Mix, a honey-coated Chex Mix, etc., and slapped on your plate and inhaled them because they're delicious? Well, you are now eating potassium bromate, which is a carcinogenic. Okay, move on down the line. I'm going to assume none of the gentlemen here use Maybelline products, so I'll move on from there. But Neutrogena, I heard many years ago, and I'm glad to see it on this list of propylparaben. Neutrogena is unclean to us. They use some form of gelatin as part of the makeup to get it to stick together and become a lotion after all. So take that off your list, boys and girls, please. Colgate toothpaste. I'm fairly sure a lot of us don't do normal toothpaste. If you still do, please stop. There are plenty of alternatives on the market, even at Walmart, that are just as inexpensive as making your own toothpaste, which I'm still not good at, so I don't try it at all. But imagine this, you know, packaged corn tortillas, cake icing. Cake icing. We had a young sister at our congregation last Shabbat. Someone brought in a birthday cake for her. I kept saying, well, number one, I'm vegan. I don't touch that anymore. 2, what's in that icing? And now it's for us to look at right now. Red dye number 3. Anybody grew up in the 70s, you remember red dye number 5, that whole big scare, how they knew it was carcinogenic. You've got maraschino cherries. You know, the dessert table a couple of weeks ago at Gates to Zion, where I attend. Not good. Jello, we know it's unclean anyway. It's off our list. No, thank you. But when I look at the bullet point down there, and I wonder why the maraschino cherries, not the ones that Yahweh made on the tree. Those are fun. The maraschino, the jarred cherries, leave those alone. But when I see the number of autistic children skyrocketing in America, I live in South Carolina, and I kid you not, in a little small town where I live, I have met 10 autistic children in a town of 10,000 people population. I said to myself, that's awfully high for a small town with no industrial centers around us at all. So something to look into. Hyperactivity, we've got a young man in our congregation as well, who unfortunately his mother was addicted to some kind of substance while she was pregnant with him. So he's bouncing off the walls continually. And unfortunately, their only answer is to give him Ritalin. And I feel so bad that the boy is 5 and they've got him on Ritalin already. To me, it's a no-no. It can't happen. Not a good idea. And I've been kind of pleading with her, well, do this first. Take him off all white sugar products and see if that has any effect on his hyperactivity. And I bet you it will. Hopefully it'll sink in, but the easy solution is give them the Ritalin. Of course, the sad part is they'll give them one Ritalin in the morning, and by the time we're ready to do the beer cut coamine at the end of the service, he's already off the meds and uncontrollable. So it's for us to really look at what they're putting in our foods and stop giving to our children as well, like Twinkies, for crying out loud, goodness sakes. So anyway, last on the list of terrors, titanium dioxide. Yeah, boys and girls, dioxide enhances the white color, including, I had to cut it off, of course, it's too long. Coffee creamers. We love our coffee creamers at Gates Design, of course, and I won't touch the dairy varieties, of course, but what do you think they put into those coffee creamers to make it look nice and white and edible for you to put into your coffee and lighten it up a little bit? Nothing good for you. It's a group 2 carcinogen. So it's imperative for us to really kind of look at what these people are putting into our foods and back away from the packaged items. Anything that's on a shelf is designed to last until, I don't know, the second coming, because they know at some point someone's going to walk through there. They're too busy to cook for their own children, or they're a little lazy, or like me, like a bachelor, and you go, okay, I can run around to the produce aisle and get this, or I can buy this right now for $2.99. Hey, it's got a cartoon in the back of the packet. Why not? Anyway, that's my diatribe for the day. I don't know if I can add anything more to that. It's just anything in a package could probably kill you at some point. Or the cumulative effect of adding these things to our bodies, Suzanne will know better than I will probably lead to some sort of a cancer. We don't need to keep eating, the adversary's packaged foods. We've got plenty of things we can eat that are on Yahweh's menu, and none of which are made by Kellogg's or the other food manufacturers in this country. Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, thank you so much, Brother Giacomo. There are so many dangers out there. One of the jobs of the watchman is, and basically to look over the wall, look out ahead and see what is going on out there that could impact the lives of believers. And all of these things you've listed are so incredibly interweaved into so many products that believers may buy in the store. They have children that they want to stay healthy, but many times they just don't have the knowledge. And so we very much appreciate you coming to share your wealth of knowledge. I know that you've been studying this kind of stuff for a long time. We may have some questions here, if you don't mind. Does anyone have any questions for Brother Giacomo?
In a few there, I mentioned spelt wheat or buckwheat, which is not actually even a wheat product. It's one of my favorites. It's a little hard to make bread or rolls out of buckwheat, but you can make a flatbread, which is delicious and it's a lot healthier. I see, Joshua, what you got? Shalom, brother.
Hey, man. Yeah, good talk. Real quick, the California State Assembly, do you know, are you affiliated with them at all, or do you know, is that from the state of California, or is that like a separate organization there?
Yeah, it's a state assembly. I lived there for 20 years in Southern California, and I'm well aware that the state, they never made a ban they didn't like, except for, open air drug use, but that's a different story, I guess. I guess the whole idea is, well, we finally identified something we can control in people. So I don't know that this is altruistic on their part whatsoever. Nevertheless, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, thank you for letting us know. But I'm fairly sure that, there's a will, there's a way. And if somebody wants that delicious Twinkie, they'll cross over to Nevada and get it from Oregon, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, I've gone through a little bit of detoxing, cleansing myself, and I can attest that even waters, I know you didn't speak a whole lot on waters, but all the
Yes.
water in the States, they're not equal by any means. And vitamin water was a water that my body could tolerate well as some of the alkaline waters, but most of the bottled water was not very good for us either.
Sure, I would, I've been told the alkaline waters, because they are filtered, if you don't know the source of that water from where it's filtered, I'd stay away from it and go for Fiji water, which is not very cheap, unfortunately, or anything artesian well, spring water, anything of that nature. Like Arrowhead is perfect. The others I don't really trust them so much. As long as they're spring water, they say they're preferable to drink from, of course.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Good talk. And I've got some well water I drink out of now, and it's miles ahead of anything I get out of the store. So I'm very grateful.
Perfect. Absolutely. Bevakasha.
Okay, we have Loki. Would you like to ask a question, Brother Giacomo? Loki.
Yeah, hi, Brother Gregory. Good to hear your voice again. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Giacomo? How do I pronounce that again?
Giacomo.
Giacomo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries.
so yeah, wheat has been a staple for so many people, and we've been growing up with the idea. You had mentioned Wonder Bread, that it's been so healthy for us. And I will say, yeah, there's been so many generations of hybridization of wheat to the extent now that the protein and the gluten our body can hardly recognize. This is part of the reason why there's so much gluten sensitivity. But in respect to the buckwheat, I just want to make a comment. I came real close one day, had a weak moment, I think, when I was walking down one of the cereal aisles in my grocery store. And I came very close to buying some grape nuts because I used to love grape nuts as a kid. Well, we got into doing this practice of we had bought some raw organic buckwheat, and very simple little procedure. Basically, we would take so many cups and soak it. We would soak it overnight, essentially, and then we would rinse it several times a day for about 3 days, and then spread that out on a food dehydrator tray. And it would actually dry relatively quickly. So probably about a day's worth at about 105 degrees. And I'll tell you, you have a healthy man's version of grape nuts doing that. And you can add that to whatever cereal, any kind of healthy cereal that you might have. We actually make a sprouted nut grainless granola. Maybe I could send that to somebody. Maybe I could send it to Steve and he could send it to you guys. It's relatively, it's a little time consuming, but very healthy for you. Yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
No, to the matter of fact, I always get the ground buckwheat, the organic version, which is, again, not the cheapest thing in the world, but around the chemotherapy is a lot more expensive. But the groats you can also get from Amazon, from a company called, gosh, golly gee, I don't remember the name of it. It's like Andrew's grain products. Something. If I ever find it, again, I'll look it up for you folks. But all this stuff is organic. It's all completely gluten-free. I didn't even have any wheat products whatsoever. It's all buckwheat and buckwheat groats and gluten certified free oat products.
All right, thank you.
Okay, one more question. We have Joseph. Go ahead with the last question, Joseph.
Thank you. I've had a couple of messages come across as far as red flagging the fruits and vegetables that we might see. This it's either maybe a preserving process called a peel. I wondered if there's any information that you've come across on that you could share. I haven't heard anything good about it yet. I wondered if what you've heard. Thank you.
I did hear something recently about that, how and take it with a grain of salt. TikTok is a great source of alternative information that's out there. Even the organic vegetables and fruit will have a wax residue, depending on how. So I have a train outside my house here. So it's imperative that you wash all fruits and vegetables and using a veggie wash, not just water. If you can't get around to the veggie wash, I use apple cider vinegar in the water, or it's plain old the thin iodine-free table salt. Just get all that garbage off the fruits and vegetables. Now, I've come across some organics that were not wax covered, but they're rare, and most definitely Walmart won't have them, which is a store I really have here in South Carolina, my little town and such. It none of the things you want in your body, anything wax related will have a residue that will end up in your system. Again, I'm not the naturopath here so much, but wax is inedible. It will stick into your colon most likely. If not, it'll stick into something else inappropriate, and it's going to shorten your quality of life. So I can't really speak to that on too much, but I've heard a few things, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you.
Is that what a peel is? Is it a wax coating? I hadn't heard that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, thank you so much for all of the interaction here. Thank you again, Brother Giacomo. We very much need to know this information. I hope you'll consider, just think about it and message me sometime. But if you'll consider coming back sometime for another Watchman report, I'd appreciate that down the road. So anyway, at this time, we're going to move on here. And so let's see here, not that one there. Let me switch here. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, so now at this time, we have our preacher, and we have Brother Sean McKinley. And Brother Sean McKinley is going to be preaching tonight a sermon, 20 minutes or less. It will be Paul, False or True Apostle. This is a subject that has had great controversy. And hopefully, Brother Sean will be able to shed some light on this subject. So we welcome you, Brother Sean, for your sermon, and we will turn it over to you.
Thank you, brother, very much. I don't even intend for probably 20 minutes. This is not going to be a very deep teaching, but what I would like to invite everybody to do, I know that oftentimes we get very caught up on these scenes and things like that, which I think we rightfully should be. However, I would like for everybody to just take yourselves back, if you would, to the moment when you first, whenever this may be, heard the gospel message from whoever it was at whatever time it was. And I wanted to start and kind of ask you a question just to kind of get you thinking about some things. And it'll be the same question Paul asked. So if you go with me to Galatians real quick in chapter 3, and part of verse 2, we're going to read. I am reading out of the Concordant Literal New Testament. There it is. Oh, anyway, it's my favorite version. It's a very literal version. So I hope you find it to be a blessing. But the question Paul asked them was, this only I want to learn from you. Did you get the Spirit, the Ruach, by the works of Torah or by the hearing of faith? And we talked about this in several of our other stuff over the last few weeks, but I shared that my findings on that word faith, I think should be better rendered as trusting faithfulness. It's not, we all know it's not simply just something that we mentally grasp a hold of, but it's something that we grasp, we believe, we accept it, which spurs us into action. It's an action, and that's why James will tell us that faith without works is dead, being alone. And that's why he says, you say you have faith and don't show, basically without works, I will show you my faith by my works. And that's exactly what it is. Works is the fruit of true faith, I believe. So think about that question for a second. That's what he wanted to know. Did we get the Spirit by the works of the law or by hearing of faith? So I think about this, and I think about the Apostle Paul. And there's a lot of evidence that he was Roman and became a proselyte for various reasons, people have said. And there's people that say, no, he was actually a Jewish man, and he was from the tribe of Benjamin. So this is the thing, out of Paul's own mouth, he said that he was sent apostello in the Greek, and it means, like we looked at before, it means to be commissioned under the authority of somebody else to do something. It's not the simple word sent in the Greek that is pempo and others, which is simply I send a letter or I send something to somebody. That's the generic word for sent. But this word, like in Acts 28 and other places, when somebody's apostled, they're apostelloed. It's a specific word that means to commission with authority of the person sending them. And there's several videos we done recently on the Yahad site. They're on the YouTube channel where we talk about several of these Greek words. And we're going through Paul now. We're talking about Paul simply because there's, as we all probably know, there's many people that are pro Paul. There are people that are absolutely anti against Paul. There's people all in between. It seems that nobody really quite knows what to do with Paul. And they say that he's anti-Torah. But out of Paul's own mouth, he says, and this is the crux of Paul's gospel message, and it's found in Ephesians and spelled out specifically in Ephesians chapter 3 and Colossians chapter 1, when he says that the nations are now joint heirs together and joint partakers of an allotment with Israel. And they're that way apart from the Torah. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we can just take the Torah out of our Bibles? No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that the hope, their promises, because of the new covenant that Yeshua told and offered his disciples and said, this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for the remission of your sins. That is what redeems people. When Paul speaks of redemption, and he speaks of sanctification, walking, and he calls it running the race. But Ephesians chapter 3 says that he had a secret, and he said that secret, mysterion in Greek, was hidden in the mind of Yahweh since before the foundations of the world. And it was for, our Bibles say, a dispensation, which is a bad word nowadays. People think when they hear that word, especially people that may have strong feelings from dispensational teachings of the past. But really what we found is that word really means an administration or stewardship. And what this is Paul is saying is that there's a secret that Yahweh revealed to me through Yeshua, and it's a secret that the Gentiles are now joint heirs together with Israel, because he explains in chapter 2 that the nations were at one time far off. They had no covenants. They had no hope. They were without Yahweh in the world, but now they're brought near by the blood of Messiah. So that's one of the things that brought the blood of Messiah near. So just real quick, I just want to look at a couple verses. What I would like to invite everybody to do, I'm sure everybody here has probably done this, but in case not, I would invite you to go through the book of Acts and pay careful attention to who the target audience is. Who, like, for instance, not just who is speaking, but who are they speaking to specifically? Like, are they speaking to people that are Jewish, Hebrew, or are they speaking to Gentiles or somebody from the nations? And it's very interesting. You're going to see a pattern through there. And a pattern is kept by Paul all throughout. He always goes to the synagogues when he goes to a city, and he speaks to the Jews. And when I say Jews, like I said in my teachings before, it's just a generic term. I don't specifically mean those from the tribe of Judah, like we all know what it means. I use it in the generic worldly sense as a Hebrew citizen of the nation of Israel. But he would go there to their synagogues first, and he would preach and teach. And most of the time, most of them rejected him. But the Gentiles, it says over and over, wanted to hear the word. So he would return next Sabbath and speak to them. And out of Paul's own mouth, he says that I am the apostle to the Gentiles. And so the Gentiles, his apostleship was to share a secret that he says Yeshua, the risen Messiah, gave him. And it was that the nations could be joint heirs together with apart from being circumcised or for being under the law, like one that was a Jewish believer was. And a lot of people get upset about that. But if we just, I invite you for just a second to just think about this with me logically. Okay. Roughly in the year 30 AD, Yeshua was crucified. If you're a believer in the cyclic nature of things, of history, and of patterns that Yahweh has established, we know that he deals in terms of 40 when he deals with his nation. So if you take, and I'm just throwing rough numbers out there, it's just me speculating, I guess, but AD 30 plus 40 years is AD 70, which is when the temple was destroyed, between 60, 66, and 73. And then after the final revolt around AD 130, there was no more Israel. They were gone, they were overran, Jerusalem was laid waste and sieged and destroyed. And believers and remnants of people were assimilated into the surrounding nations. So now for the next 2,000 years, what was Yahweh to do? You know, and that's why Paul says, is he the Elohim of the Jews only? Well, for 2,000 years, there's been no temple, no priesthood, no nation, no tabernacle, none of it. It's been gone. But what there was an apostle, and then other people also, as we know. They went west. And because of that, the gospel has been spread to the entire world. Now, what does Paul talk about the Torah? People say that he's not Torah observant, and that he hates the Torah. That's not what Paul is saying, but Paul is talking about, like I first asked in Galatians. So if you go with me to, if you go with me to Romans chapter 3 and verse 31, I'm just going to read, we'll just go through a few verses. It says, we're starting 29. Or is he the Elohim of the Jews only? Is he not of the nations also? Yes, of the nations also. If so be that Elohim is one, who will be justifying the circumcision out of faith and the uncircumcision through faith. Are we then nullifying law through faith? May it not be coming to that. Nay, we are sustaining law, because faith, like I was saying before, is trusting faithfulness. If you say you have faith and you do nothing and if your life bears zero fruit, then we know that is one of the ways that we know a believer is by their fruit. And by their fruit is our lives, the way that we live out the Torah, not in a way of a checklist of rules and laws, but how we love one another and how we love Yahweh. Because Yeshua was right, and what he said is that the two great commandments is to love Yahweh with all of our heart, mind, and spirit, and love our neighbor as ourselves. On those two things, the Torah hangs. If you read Galatians 5, the fruits of the Spirit, Paul says, and match that with the teachings of Yeshua in the Sermon on the Mount and the Torah teachings, you'll see it's all the same thing. All right. Paul is speaking to Gentiles. He's speaking to a bunch of people that were far off from the Torah. They didn't go to synagogues every Sabbath and hear the Torah of Moshe read. They didn't hear the prophets read. These were Gentile believers, remember that. Paul is introducing them to the Messiah, to the Jewish Messiah, whose blood was shed for the redemption of creation. And Paul was heralding that message, which he said was a secret. And it's not taking away the Torah. It's not doing any such of a thing. But I think that the Didache, and I won't go on much more about it because it's just something to get people to think. Paul over and over again, Romans 7:12. I can read that real quick too. We'll just read in verse 10. Now I lived apart from Torah once, yet coming to precepts sin revives. Yet I died, and it was found that to me the precept for life, this is for death. For sin, Torah violations, getting an incentive through the precept, through the Torah writing, deludes me and through it kills me. So the law indeed is holy, and the precept holy and just and good. He explains that the Torah is a signpost. It is a guide that points us to the living Torah, the Messiah. And he says, once you have received the living Torah, the Messiah, as Galatians says, it ceases to function as a guidepost for you. People say, Paul says in Galatians, that he throws the entire Torah out, and that's not the case. He says that once you reach the end goal of the Torah, which is the Messiah, it ceases to become a guidepost pointing you to the Messiah because you've arrived. But I'd like to finish with a reading from the Didache. I think that this sums it up very well. I think it jives, if you will, Peter and Paul, so to speak, or James and Paul. But Didache in chapter 6 says, and this is Jackson's translation of it. It's been Hebraicized. It's really good. But Didache 6:1, pay attention, just in case someone leads you astray from this road of righteousness. He is teaching you that which is beyond Elohim. If you can bear the master's whole yoke, you will be complete. But if you cannot, do the best you can. Now, isn't that what James the Just said in Acts chapter 15? He gave the 4 needful things for the Gentiles to believe so they could coexist with the Jews when they would go to a synagogue. And the last thing he says in Acts chapter 15 in that section is, because the Torah of Moshe is read every Sabbath. So these Gentiles, as they were going and they were learning and hearing the Moshe, or the Torah of Moshe being read, many of them probably for the first times. And the Ruach is now working in their life and opening their hearts and writing those Torah teachings into their hearts and causing them to walk in their ways. And it's just like all the parables of Yeshua when he said that the reward for faithful service, for talents, and for stewards that are working in a vineyard. And that's exactly what we're looking for. And that's what the hope of Paul says when he touches the tape at the end. It's for faithful service. And the only writings and the only words that Yahweh has ever given mankind, be it Jew or Gentile, to show us what is right and what is wrong, is his Torah. And so there is no way that you can't separate Messiah from Torah, because they are one and the same. And you can't separate a true apostle of the Messiah from the Torah. Because if he's not teaching that, he's teaching against the Messiah. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Like I said, it wasn't anything deep or profound, but it was something that's really on my heart, because Paul has some things to say. And he has some things to say that are relevant to those living outside the land, without temples and without the priesthood. And it's so we have a hope, and it shows that he says it fills up the grace of Elohim. It shows Yahweh's exceeding grace to those that believe him and believe his son. So thank you very much, y'all. And may Yahweh please walk with all of you, and God bless you all.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brother Sean McKinley. We will hold all questions and comments until after the service. And then anyone who would like to ask Brother Sean any questions or make comments on the subject matter can freely do so. But thank you again, brother, and we will continue on with the service. So I would like to introduce you to a new piece of music that Brother Snyder sent along to me, and this is Psalms 103, Baruch. And it's a great little song, and I hope that all of you guys enjoy it. And we also have the music score here. So we want to thank Dr. Snyder for providing this, and the New Earth Restoration Assemblies. We thank you again, and we hope you enjoy.
Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem, Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Yahweh, oh my being, all that is inside me cry Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Yahweh, oh you beings, never dare forget his dealings blessed. Baruch, Baruch Hashem Yahweh, he forgives your crookednesses. He heals your diseases. He buys back your life from Satan, crowns you with compassion. Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Yahweh, oh my being, all that is inside me, cry Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Yahweh, oh you beings, never dare forget his dealings, bless. Baruch, Baruch Hashem Yahweh. He fulfills desires with goodness. He restores you youthful. He will judge your cruel oppressors. Crown your head with kindness. Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Yahweh, oh my being, all that is inside me, cry Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Yahweh, oh you beings, never dare forget his dealings, bless. Baruch, Baruch Hashem Yahweh. He makes known the acts of Moshe, he grants you the Torah. He will always show you favor, crowns you with his blessing. Baruch, Baruch, Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Okay, at this time, we are going to be looking at events on our calendar. And so we will have Brother Steve, if he is there with us. We are here on the 24th. I do apologize for the mistake on the title page. I put the 26th. I should have put the 24th. But anyway, mistakes do happen. So we apologize again for that. But Brother Steve, are you there tonight?
Yes, shalom.
Shalom. Go ahead, brother. Tell us about our events upcoming.
All right, upcoming tomorrow, we have Identifying the Disciples on, that's going to be with Brother Jackson on the Zoom. And then on Friday, Brother Apostle Greg has Healing Herbs. And then, of course, we have our Shabbat message this week is Brother Kramer's going to bring the word. And then on Sunday, we're having the Bible study, Mysteries of Barnabas. That's also on Brother Jackson's Zoom.
Okay, and then go ahead, brother.
And then also Brother Sean is having a Bible study also on Mondays. You're all welcome to come and join in. The links for the Zoom meetings will be on the Team Up calendar.
Okay,
for
and
each one of those.
And most of those will be on Brother Snyder's room, which is www.theyahad.com. Is that correct, Brother Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the Midweek Manna, I think, is the only one that's different, other than Brother Holsapple has his own room information. Brother Holsapple, if you'd like to put your information in the chat there for people who may be interested in attending your Healing Herbs seminar on Friday, you could go ahead and do that. And so we have a lot of events, and so we're very thankful for that. So thank you again, Brother Steve. Okay, so at this time, we are finishing up our service with the Aaronic benediction. And so remember that after the Aaronic benediction, we will have the discussion period. And so I will finish with the blessing. And so Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. Yivarekeka Yahweh, Vayishmareka. Yaher Yahweh, Panaveleka, Bikuneka. Yisa Yahweh, Panaveleka, Viasem Leka, Leka Shalom. B'Shem Yahushua HaMoshiach Sar Shalom.
The service is finito.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And please remember, we have our contact information here. This is a production of the Yohad grouping of assemblies, Brother Jackson Souffrant of the Congregation of Elohim. We sort of brainstormed this up along with Hebrew Messianic Israel. Please keep us in contact if you have any questions, or if perhaps you would like to take part in our services. There are 2 emails here. You can reach out to either Brother Jackson Souffrant of the Congregation of Elohim at jmss525@verizon.net, or reach out to Hebrew Messianic Israel, shul at HM Israel. It's always a pleasure to have all of you with us, and we hope to continue these services. And I want to thank everyone again who participated, and our specialists who came here to share with us either the word or some special aspect which will benefit the assembly of Messiah. So at this time, I'm going to stop the recordings